Welcome to the In and Athlete podcast. I'm your host, Trent, and this is the show where we dive into all things youth athlete development, strength and conditioning, and the mindset needed to thrive on and off the field. Whether you're a parent looking to support your child's athletic journey, a coach seeking fresh insights, or an athlete ready to take your game to the next level, you're in the right place. Before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes. If you enjoy the show, please give us a like, share it with your friends, and help us reach even more people who can benefit from these insights. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes to perform at their best. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to the In and Athlete podcast. I've got another special guest here today. I feel like I've done 1,000 podcasts in the last 2 days. Mr. Chad Ronk, welcome to the podcast.
Pleased to be here.
Yeah, all the way from America.
All the way from America.
If you couldn't tell. So I guess, introduce yourself and we'll get a little bit more into today's topic and we'll go from there.
Right on. I'm Chad Ronk. Here in Australia to coach some lacrosse, college athlete. Love to grow the game. I've been involved in international lacrosse for a little bit now. So Australia is one of the, outside of Canada and America, Australia is probably has the biggest lacrosse structure here, so I'm excited to help grow it.
Yeah, I think lacrosse is one of those sports. It's going to experience some exponential growth in the next 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. Obviously, now it's been introduced as an Olympic sport with the sixes format. The Lacrosse Australia have finally got some funding from the federal government to invest in their programs, and I think the next phase is really just getting to developing that grassroots side moving forward. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about, I guess, your playing career, and then how did you actually get into lacrosse in the first place?
My playing career. So actually, I started lacrosse late. I started at 14. I started because my brother was going to play his senior year, and he didn't play. But his buddies were playing, so they came to the house. They brought sticks. So that's how I was kind of introduced to it. So my freshman year, I started playing. Made it to college, and where I played for Aurora University. My coach was a national champion. His dad is actually in the Coaching Hall of Fame. For Salisbury University, he's won, I think, 12 or 13 national championships. Don't quote me. But as an athlete, coming from Texas, where lacrosse is also not that big, and then playing for the coach that I did, it gave me a ton of confidence. He taught me a ton about the game. And so now as a coach, I'm so thankful to have played for him because of, I almost feel validated. Coming from Texas, you don't know that much. But then when I played for him, it was like, I wasn't that far off. I was a good enough athlete. And then he taught me, more skill, more technique. And it made me feel like a real lacrosse player once I got to college.
Yeah, and then what's the landscape of lacrosse like in America?
In America, the game was invented right on the border of America, Canada, in the Northeast, kind of New York, Canada, Toronto, that area right there. So right there is the biggest pocket of lacrosse.
Like the heart of it.
Yeah, they call it the hotbeds. So New York, Maryland, Philly, Vermont, those kind of states. That's where lacrosse is huge. The rest of the states, Texas, Illinois, where I played, anything out west, Washington, it's growing a ton. I mean, I think it's the fastest growing sport in America, but it's still not as big as Maryland, that area.
Mm. And then I guess when you see these programs that you've kind of witnessed to some degree, what are the programs like? Like, give us a bit of a snapshot of what is it like to play, college lacrosse?
College lacrosse.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So I went to 2 different colleges actually. So I went to school in Alabama first. Much different. I will say who you play for matters. So not every program is created equal. College, I mean, I played Division III. It takes a huge commitment. I mean, you got to practice every day. You are watching film every day. You're lifting every day. More time than you think you're spending on your body, you are. But my favorite part about college was just being with the boys. The team camaraderie, the dinners, the hotels, stuff like that. That was the best part of college lacrosse for me.
I guess, the college experience playing lacrosse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
And another thing is, if you're not playing at a major Division I, you're probably at a small liberal arts school, so everyone is there to play lacrosse. So the commitment level is very high on the team, regardless of level, because everyone came for the same reason. So everyone's committed to what the reason they came for.
Yeah, and did you have any imports that came over as well? Like anyone from either Canada or overseas?
There's a lot of Canadians.
Yeah.
Lacrosse is the national sport of Canada, actually. So we had one Canadian on our team, but mostly it's from different states. So I don't know how many states were represented on my team, at least 12.
Oh, wow.
So it's more interstate rather than international.
Yeah. And do you see that changing in the next 5 to 10 years, especially being a part of, I guess, the programs and the scene in Melbourne?
There's going to be some Australians over there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think also with the Olympics, depending on how it does in the Olympics, it'll become way more popular. And you'll see a lot more international players.
Because what I've seen in the Olympics, and this was an example with Paris, you see a lot of the basketball teams, a lot of other countries that aren't as strongly represented in the NBA, and they get their first main break of playing, high caliber international level basketball is when they go to the Olympics. I think if you look at Senegal, I think Luol Deng actually pays for the whole team to come over. Obviously, he funds the team. And then obviously that's where a lot of players actually start to get their big break. I think it's happened for a couple of Australians as well, from playing domestic basketball in the NBL, making the Australian team, and then getting exposure and playing on the world stage against multi-million-dollar athletes.
There has been one Australian professional lacrosse player.
Okay.
There's been one, so it has happened already.
Okay, so it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then obviously you've got your big four sports in America. You've got your baseball, ice hockey, football, and basketball. Where do you see lacrosse kind of coming into that? Obviously, there's a professional league, the PLL. Where do you see that in comparison to those leagues at the moment? Is it on the way up?
It's hard to say. If you look at the PLL, all of the fans are already lacrosse fans. So you don't get a lot of outsiders watching lacrosse. Yeah. But I will say at the youth level, it's becoming a lot more popular because football is there's so many concussions in football, even at young ages. So lacrosse is a little bit more or a little less physical. So there is a huge jump in participation at the youth level because football is becoming a little bit less popular. Yeah, and it's probably the same trend here, to be honest, as well. I think a lot of parents will start to realise our version would be Australian rules and rugby league, and you'll start to see kids pick up a stick and they'll start throwing it as well. I think a lot of kids want to have a sport that's quite physical, or especially for boys. They like the physicality, but I think the parents are more concerned about, there's more understanding on what concussion is. If you haven't watched episodes 112 and 113, watch those. They're all on concussion in terms of the developing brain, in terms of the potential impacts moving forward for them, how they can have an impact in terms of the schooling and development. And obviously, and I think in all sports, there has been a majority of mainstream sports, there have been some level of concussion. If we look at cricket, tennis, I think Novak Djokovic actually suffered concussion, and he took him quite a while to actually recover from that as well. Then obviously you got your combat sports. Obviously concussion is quite prevalent within those, and I think if parents want their kids to play a team sport, relatively low impact, relatively low compared to more your traditional sports like rugby league and Australian rules, it's going to be more of a no-brainer in that sense. And then look, to be honest, to pick up a stick and to throw the ball, it doesn't really take that much, but to be good at it takes a lot. Yeah, and everybody, you see it. Every time you pick up a stick, it's awesome. Every kid who picks up a stick, it's hard to get it out of their hands. Yeah. So once you put them on the field, it's hard to stop playing. It's borderline addictive. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. There's no cooler sport. You're holding a stick, and you got a suit of armor on, and you're just out there whacking people. Well, it's not. I think for me, it's just the satisfaction of actually doing the task. Yeah. It's how many people can actually do this relatively well. If you can pick it up and start throwing it, it's you're going to be all right at it. Still to this day, when I catch the ball, I'm like, yes. Yeah. And especially if you're doing a long toss with someone, and it's you get a 40-meter pass, and it's you catch it, and I'm like, oh, it actually felt really easy. Yeah, it feels good. Yeah. Especially when it comes out of the hand so easy when you throw it to them as well. That's cool.
And obviously from Texas, why did you move here?
Well, originally I had reached out to a couple clubs because I've been coaching since I was in college. So I think maybe 8 or 9 years. I'm not sure exactly how long I've been coaching, but I had reached out to a couple different clubs to get involved with the youth programs to coach. I knew that people came over here to play. I was a little less interested in playing than I was coaching, so I just sent an email out to a bunch of coaches or a bunch of clubs. And then Colby emailed me back saying he wanted to start the MLA, and he asked me if I'd be interested, and I said, of course. So then he called me, and we talked about it. So originally I had only planned on being here for, your winter, which 3-4 months maybe, tops.
Yeah.
But when he started talking about this, I was like, I could see myself being here for... That's an opportunity that doesn't just come.
No.
So I was like, oh yeah, I would love to do this. So that's how it happened. It's all for coaching. And then when I came here in January, I went to Japan and experienced a tournament over there, and then met a bunch of people that took me to China. I met the guy. I think he's the head of lacrosse for Saudi Arabia. He was in Okinawa at the tournament.
Oh, wow.
I just noticed once I got myself, put myself out there on the international game, it was very easy to meet people. Everyone's super friendly. Everyone wants to grow the game. Everybody loves the game. So I think on the international level, it's almost more exciting because it's so new to so many people and so many people love it. Yeah. So I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's where lacrosse has really got to grow, is getting someone who's doesn't even know the sport or who's heard of the sport. Like when I first heard of the sport, when I was in primary school, which would be your elementary school, it was like the big plastic ones, the big scoop heads, and looked like a giant dog shit scooper, right? That's when I got first exposure, and the big softball as well, and you just played indoor, which was like fun to a point, but it's like I don't know, it just didn't feel like an actual sport. It just felt like more of a novelty than anything else. Like
it's a PE sport.
Yeah, like a PE sport. Like you're just learning it. It's in a safe and and the heads don't break, like they just bend and all that jazz. And even for me, like with the rugby league background, like it probably would have been the sport that I would have stuck with the most, just because it had the physicality. The passing element was also good. Which I actually quite enjoyed, and it was like ice hockey on turf, and I liked it because it was quite fast paced. I think that would have been the sport if I had stuck with the sport or chosen the sport. Like rugby league is obviously, I enjoy it, but obviously I did unfortunately suffer a concussion and it wasn't the greatest. But I think lacrosse would have been the perfect crossover sport for me.
Yeah.
But I can always reminisce.
Yeah.
Always dream about that.
But you can't go back.
No, I can't go back. But I can live vicariously through the kids we coach as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit more about, I guess, what do you see the gaps are? Obviously, you've been in Australia now for a couple of months. You've kind of seen the landscape. You've gone to a few games. I know recently you went to a tournament as well. Which is more preparation for the LA games than anything else. How do you see the landscape in Australia? Like, what's your kind of like general consensus at the moment?
Well, I could say first, I haven't seen all the clubs. I haven't seen everyone, so I can only tell you what I've experienced. I just want to preface everything with that.
In Melbourne, yeah.
I've noticed that it's very territorial here, and so I think one of the biggest things that's because held the sport back in Australia specifically is just the lack of collaboration, because the sport has been here, I want to say, for like 100 years, something like that.
Well, yeah, from my understanding, what Colby has told me predates World War One.
World War One.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like 1910.
Yeah. It's over 100 years.
Yeah,
I'm like, he's saying like 150 years. I'm like, well, if it's as long as Australian rules, I think part of the reason was, we go back to the history. From what my understanding was, it was considered Australia's number one sport, or whether it was Victoria's number one sport. When we had the World Wars, we had a lot of migrants come over, and then soccer and it kind of flourished from there and became like the world game in that sense. So and then lacrosse kind of like went by the wayside with that. But back to your point in terms of like being territorial, it has to like regrow again. Like it's been there, but it hasn't been like out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I think is super cool about MLA is as soon as Colby kind of reached out, people were keen for it. They were like, oh, yeah, we want that. We want to come together. We want to get whatever the best opportunity is. We want that. So I do think that it's, once you start pushing for it, I think people will just kind of come around to it. Another thing I noticed, just IQ. I mean, that just goes with the popularity of the sport, and the level of play. Like the highest level of play in America is much, much higher than the highest level of play here. So you can get away like at State League, which is their highest level of competition. The IQ is, I mean, not even close to what I was playing in college, and I wasn't even on the best team. So just the strategies and the techniques that they use are, I don't want to say outdated, but just they're just not at the same level.
It's kind of like missing a few elements to make it stand out.
Simple things, but still.
Well, it's kind of like, it's a lot of sports. Like if you look at rugby league, from my understanding, we'd have like a tiered system. So you'd have like your main countries. You'd have like Australia, New Zealand, England, and I think France, some of the islander nations as well. And then you have like your second tier nations that would actually sit under that. And usually it's got to do with like the resources they have available, the talent pool they have available, the coaching staff, or the resources just the general resources they have available in terms of developing their own players within their own nation is actually quite limited as well. And then you have like third tier nations that kind of like play it, but it's not really to the same capacity compared to like other sports that they have available within those countries. So I think Australia kind of sits within maybe the second, if not the third tier within that. But there's a lot more money being pumped into it now, and I think it's only a matter of time before the sport really grows from there. But yeah, like USA and Canada, it's like you said, it's the hotbed. Yeah,
and it was also invented there, so I don't think anyone will ever catch up completely at the highest level. I think so, but I don't think it'll ever be as popular as it is in Canada and US.
No, and actually there's a funny story in regards to Olympic sports. It was the Rio Games in 2016. They had built an Olympic-sized swimming pool, obviously to host the swimming. And part of the initiatives for the Olympics is actually to leave a legacy. And the whole point of leaving a legacy is like, can we have the next generation introduce them to sports that not traditionally would be considered normal for the nation. So swimming is not normal in Brazil. Obviously, it's like soccer, track and field. I don't even know what other sports.
Volleyball,
volleyball, maybe basketball, just something.
Fighting, I think. I don't know.
Maybe more the combat sports. Yeah. And I think it was at the Paris Games that actually had their first swimmer qualify for the finals. I can't remember what event, or male or female. It was the first time they qualified, and I was like, all right, this is amazing. So it does take a long time in order to see that kind of come to fruition. The LA Games is obviously going to display lacrosse on a larger stage, which is good. I think it's for the sport to actually grow, and obviously then it will come to Australia as well for the 2032. And obviously, I think when Colby initially came to me and I kind of like how he kind of, sold it to the parents and the kids. It was like, all right, we can create an opportunity for these kids start to prepare for 2032 if that is their goal, to play, on the world stage, in their own backyard. And I think when I first met Colby as well, it's funny. Did he ever tell you the story of how we first met?
No, he tore his Achilles.
Yeah,
he told me.
It's funny because that a physio that I know of, they do. We kind of like refer to each other. And it's like, tore his Achilles, went to go see Niraj, and then Colby was like, oh, who do you know that would be good for this idea that I have? And I was like, I'll speak to Trent. And literally 3 meetings later, I was like, all right, we're going to go with it. And we were like, we have no idea how it's going to go. And we're just going to figure it out. I'm like, all right, let's go with it. I've done similar programs. We've started from scratch. But I think, Colby's done a phenomenal job to really carry this through, and I think we just had a discussion about it, yesterday. To this point, I'd still consider it a success, considering, the feedback we get from the parents, the kids, and then also from the coaches for us. I think that's the biggest win, is now we've got a bit more buy-in from the coaches. And how we said...
Talk about the club coaches. Their coaches.
Their coaches. So we've got, the kids represent, MCC, was it Malvern, Surrey Park,
Caulfield. Melbourne?
Melbourne, you said?
Yeah. I think it's more around that area, more the inner southeast suburbs.
I think that's it. I think those are the ones that we represent.
Yeah. So we're really focused on, I guess, this side of the Yarra, of the Westgate. And their coaches, the club coaches have seen, real genuine improvements in their performance, which is for us is a huge win, which is going to help to lead to more buy-in and help hopefully close that gap and being less territorial. It's like, hey, we're developing your kids. It's like you kind of have to give sometimes in order for them to give to you.
Definitely.
In that sense, and I think because if we have a scarce mindset, it's like, oh, we've got these players, this is all we have available, and we're not focusing on growth of the game. It's like we're just going to be so territorial with what's actually available.
Well, and then when those kids graduate or stop playing, then you're done.
Yeah, it really comes down to, if you're not growing, you're dying. Mm-hmm. And we don't want the sport to die.
Our brains develop, so that's us, man. We're on the decay.
Yeah, I know. That's why we're coaches.
That's right.
We're going to share our wisdom, not so much our physicality.
What we have left.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we keep it going as long as possible. There's some things that we've mentioned about as well.
Wait, can I cut you off? I thought of something.
Yeah.
In the more popular sports, like footy, do they practice every day? Or is it normal to practice twice a week?
If we're looking at club training, like as a large group, as a team, it usually be 2-3 times a week. So if I look at Bentley Greens, I use them for an example. The senior girls will, and even with the juniors, they will train 3 times a week. One session is moderately hard. The second session is probably the hardest of the lot, and the third one is more of a taper off into game day. So the 3 train, 1 game.
And then, do they have school sports as well?
Yeah, usually they'll have school sports. Some of them, say for example, one of our really good girls in the under 15s, she'll play. She plays representative in state netball. Uh-huh. So she's a 2-sport athlete.
And they're twice a week, 3 times a week.
They'll be like 2 or 3 times a week as well. So sometimes they could play a game of netball in the morning, like 1 or 2 games of netball in the morning, and they have a game of soccer in the afternoon on the same day. Yeah,
because in America, like I play basketball, lacrosse, but we practice every day. So you practice 5 days a week. Maybe you have a game, or maybe you have 4 practices, 2 games. But 6 days a week, you're practicing, whatever sport it is, football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, it's 6 days a week. And I think that's another huge difference in why lacrosse is so much, the level is so much higher in America, is because if you have a stick in your hand 6 days a week versus 2 to 3, just that alone, regardless of what you're doing, is gonna help you improve.
Yeah, Australian culture Australian sporting culture when it comes to developing kids within the sport is different, because they'll have 2 to 3 times a week for club, team training, game on the weekend, and then what a lot of parents are doing now, and this has become like a bigger industry, is getting like private sports coaching. So you might have like a private soccer coach, or you might do a small group, and you were really working on certain things. And like to some degree, I think that's good, but to do it all the time, I think it's more detrimental.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you kind of just look like recycling through. I think it should be just like, all right, what's your gap in your game that you're performing really poorly in? Smash it out for 8 weeks. And then by the time you're at 8 weeks, you should be able to get it under control.
Yeah,
by that point, and then you won't need it. And then all right, then you got to reassess what's the next thing.
Yeah,
and you're just adding tools to the tool belt in that sense.
Yeah, I think sports you just play, especially when you're young. Just play.
Yeah,
you'll get better just playing basketball.
Yeah,
if you just go play with your friends every day, you'll get better.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
I think the highly structured loses the creativity and the imagination of like trying to solve problems as well on the field. So whether the field, court, where it is, I think that's where we really need to kind of like bring it back. Because when I was talking to the under 15s coach at Bentley, it's become almost like for the men's side, it's become very professionalized. For the women's side, less so. And the reason why is when we want to play, we want to be loose and relaxed. That's when we're actually playing our best. And then we can take all the information and process it quickly and make the most appropriate executive decision. When someone's calm and relaxed, they're going to be in an absolute flow state. And that's where we want performance for kids to actually be. And then also, it actually speeds up the learning process as well. So that's why every time we train,
we're doing some sort of game or something, relatively unstructured to kind of get them mentally into training itself, and creating some new neural pathways for them to be able to utilize. And then we create that environment, so whenever you want to give them something more specific and say, hey, we want to enforce this, and then they're going to be in a better state to be able to do that as well. So it's more from a motor learning perspective.
Right. Yeah, I saw y'all play medicine. What was it? Medicine ball?
Yeah, medicine volleyball. Med ball volleyball.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good fun. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers. I saw a video. They were playing on the sand. It was 2v2. Who was the old guy? He played for years. He's absolutely jacked. And anyway, I think it was a linebacker. No, they're all jacked linebackers anyways. And I saw it one time. I was like, this would be actually a really cool game. And you can always modify the rules and all that jazz. And I like it because it creates just creative movement patterns, the way that they throw it. And for me as a coach, it actually gets me to actually analyze how they're actually moving. Because sometimes when you, say for example, I want to do a med ball scoop pass. So sometimes it's actually better off just do it as part of the warm-up where they don't actually have to think about it, because then later on when they're thinking about it, it's like, there's too many things we've got to think about to do right, and then it looks really stiff. So sometimes it's worthwhile just to play the game, see how they move first, and just make 1 or 2 tweaks when you actually do the more structured work moving forward. And then the idea is you play it at some point later on down the track, and then they should have been able to implement that to some degree as well. Yeah. There you go, motor learning.
Yeah, I want to play some, I think.
Yeah, I know. I think we'll do that next time.
We'll to go 1v1.
Yeah. The other one's spike ball as well.
Oh, spike ball's good.
Yeah, spike ball's good fun.
Yeah.
That's a wrap for part 1 of this episode on the In Athlete podcast. We've covered some incredible insights today, but there's still so much more to come. Make sure to tune in to part 2 for the rest of the conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, and share it with your network to help us reach even more listeners like you. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in part 2.